Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 10th annual Saving Innocence Gala. My name is Alan Smith, and I'm the Executive Director of Saving Innocence.
And I'm his lovely co-host, Ori Freeman.
It's been 10 years, the work of Saving Innocence.
An amazing 10 years. The amount of growth, the growth of the staff, the lives that have been impacted, the youth who've been served. It's amazing.
Before we go any further, I have to give a special thank you to all of those corporate sponsors and table hosts, the people that make an event like this happen. Thank you so much for your generosity. In case you're tuning in for the first time and you're just now learning about Saving Innocence, you might also be learning about human trafficking for the first time. I'd like to take a moment and break down both for you. Saving Innocence is a 10-year-old anti-human trafficking agency, headquartered out of Los Angeles, California, yet we have a national impact with our training and consultation. Human trafficking is basically compelling someone to do something against their will, something they ordinarily would not choose to do. The federal definition uses words like force, fraud, and coercion. They don't want to do it. It wouldn't be their choice. It's not something they want to be doing, either in the category of labor, working, or sex. The other two main categories we think of is adult and minors. Saving Innocence has the distinct honor and incredible privilege to work with the child victims of sex trafficking. We spend our day, every day, oftentimes into the middle of the night, serving those children in their need in the most vulnerable time of their life. I have the honor of working with an incredible staff of advocates that are on call 24/7, 365, and we can hardly wait to spend time with the kids that we serve. All that may sound a little bit formal. Ori, I'm wondering if you could bring that to life a little bit for us. Could you expand a little bit about what's actually happening out there in the world?
What's actually happening, Alan, is tonight children will be raped. And tonight children will be sold. And tonight children will be beaten. Some of them will never return home. Some of them might not eat tonight. Many of these children, if not all of them, will probably be raped 7 to 15 times a night. They don't know what it's like to be tucked in by their mom and dad. They won't be tucked in by their mother and father tonight. They'll be being forced out there to work. They're going to be sold over and over tonight. And most of the time people think that it's happening somewhere else. It's not happening here, but it is. It's happening right here in our backyard, and it's happening right now. And what we know that it's also becoming an invisible crime because of the internet, because how much access traffickers have to young children. Studies and experiences have shown that the average age of entry is 12 years old. And what we know from even at Saving Innocence, the youngest has been 9 years old. Right here in Los Angeles, right here in the state of California. It's not always what we see on a TV or how it looks. And even though every child's experience is completely different, it's all still the same. All of their innocence is being stolen.
Okay, so Ori, there's a lot of people watching for the first time. I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. You're telling me that children as young as 9, 10, 11, 12 are being bought and sold out on the street and on the internet for the pleasures of some deviant other men? Is that what you're telling me?
Men and women.
Okay.
Anybody. People purchase sex from children.
And you're telling me it's right here in our country, in this city, in every zip code.
It's happening everywhere. And people from all aspects of life, no matter what race you are, no matter what religion you are, no matter who you serve or where you work, many of them have bought sex. There's not a description that fits human trafficking. There's not a certain type of look for a victim. What we do know is that a lot of them from a lot of the youth that I have worked with, a lot of them may come from the foster care system. But I want people to know that that's only because they're identified. Well, we're not calculating the numbers of the children who have access to the internet and might not be coming home on time or might have access to other friends. So it just looks a lot differently. But anybody could be purchasing sex. And that's a huge problem, is the demand.
Or you really seem like you are an expert in this topic. You seem like you know a lot of information. How is that so?
Well, because I've lived it. I was trafficked from 11 to 15 years old right here in Los Angeles, right in Orange County across the street from Disneyland. It happens. I was 11 years old when I was trafficked. I should have been playing with dolls. I should have been playing house. I should have been doing all these things that a normal child would be doing at 11 years old. And I wasn't. Instead, I was being sold day in and day out, night after night. And you know what the most craziest part about it all is that I remember being 14 years old and walking into a McDonald's and having hardly anything on. Not one person ever did anything. Never said anything. People just looked at me with disgust. And the number one problem that we still have it today is that people don't think that it's their problem, but it does. We're all interconnected, and it affects a business. It affects a family. It affects the way that your kids are going to impact somebody else's life. I've lived it.
Ori, thank you so much for being transparent and sharing with our audience some of your life experiences. It's truly powerful and meaningful. Saving Innocence exists to protect human worth by confronting exploitation. And when we think of that, we think of all the faces of our young children that we serve. And we celebrate the Ori Freemans of the world that have gone through it and truly survived it and now out thriving and leading. And I'm honored that you're my friend, and I'm honored that you've joined this work and you help Saving Innocence with these kids. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alan, for having me here tonight.
It is always great to be with you, Ori. We have a lot more to cover before the night's over. As you know, we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary of Saving Innocence.
And we put together a special video just for you, highlighting the last 10 years of all the accomplishments. Let's take a look.
A 2009 headline read, "Prostitution Raids Rescue 52 Youth," where they refer to the kids as young as 10 years old as child prostitutes. 2009 was also the year that the FBI listed Los Angeles as one of the top 13 child sex trafficking areas in the nation and one of the top 3 in California. And this paved the way for Kim Biddle to begin the work in the sector. So in 2010, in response to the overwhelming need and general misunderstanding of the crimes that were being committed against children, Kim recognized, if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? She had passion, a master's of social work, a background in teaching and education, and that led to the creation of Saving Innocence. Kim was alone that year. She was the only staff member. And the next 2 years were building and growing, long meetings and sacrificing. Kim recalls collecting free food boxes as she built relationships and resources. In 2011, we had doubled our number of staff. In January 2012, Saving Innocence was the only nonprofit contracted by the Los Angeles Superior Court to be a part of the launch of the first juvenile court in the United States for child victims of sex trafficking, termed the STAR Court, which stands for Succeeding Through Achievement and Resilience. The STAR Court, with Commissioner Pratt at the time, allowed the advocate in the court to support the youth so that they had a familiar face. That year, we held our first empowerment conference. We served 24 kids and we had 3 staff. By 2013, we had grown to 6 staff. We served 48 kids and we started traveling out of state to spend time with kids in care facilities. In 2014, we had grown to 8 staff. We started the Los Angeles County First Responder Protocol. The protocol was implemented in a pilot area. We would respond to calls within 90 minutes alongside social workers and probation officers. But kids were still seen as criminals who were being exploited. There were victims being transported, being held for their safety in the same bus as their trafficker, even though they were headed to court to testify against them, and they endured insults the entire drive. We served 80 kids that year. By 2015, we had grown to 9 staff. We were continuing with the First Responder Protocol with 5 advocates on a rotating basis for the crisis response and long-term advocacy. We served 117 kids that year, and we supported 1 youth through a federal case alongside the FBI in Fresno. In 2015, the Los Angeles Regional Human Trafficking Task Force was launched, and we took 10 youth to Disneyland with board members and staff. In late 2015, the implementation of the First Responder Protocol was expanded to the Los Angeles Police Department's 77th and Southeast Divisions. By 2016, we had grown to 11 staff. We began word on the street groups in juvenile hall, which were facilitated by advocates and survivor advocates. Dream Court began hearing cases, which was the child welfare version of the Star Court, presided over by Judge Sullivan. We supported the district attorney and clients in 2 massive trials, one that resulted in the trafficker being sentenced to 281 years. The first responder protocol was rolled out to all of Los Angeles Sheriff's Department stations. Operation Reclaim and Rebuild that year resulted in 198 people being arrested in a countywide sex trafficking operation. In July of that year, we faced the extraordinary circumstance of a client being murdered. That was also the year that SB 1322 passed, which meant that children were no longer arrested for prostitution. We served 173 kids that year. By 2017, we had grown to 13 staff members. We started working with the Texas Governor's Office to support their efforts to use the Saving Innocence model throughout the state of Texas, which meant advocates teaming with law enforcement and child welfare. We started traveling back and forth to train advocacy agencies on our model. That year, we served 324 kids. We had 16 high school graduates, and we supported 24 youth testifying against their traffickers. By 2018, we had grown to 17 staff members. The first responder protocol was rolled out to all of Los Angeles Police Department divisions. We trained Dallas CASA supervisors, an advocacy agency in Arkansas, and consulted with organizations in Hawaii and Maryland. We started training local care facilities and their staff on better practices with commercially sexually exploited children. We supported 42 youth testifying against their traffickers, and it was our first year of the Survivor Leadership Academy for Youth. We had 35 high school graduates, and we served 509 kids that year. By 2019, we had grown to 22 staff. We started a new contract with the Department of Children and Family Services, and our intervention curriculum was piloted in the juvenile hall facilities. We continued to train care facility staff locally and advocacy agencies in Texas. We had 25 high school graduates and served a total of 558 kids that year. With all of this activity, we even managed to squeeze in another trip to Disneyland. In 2020, we've grown to 28 staff. We launched our online advocacy course and our foster family agency. We supported 29 youth testifying against their traffickers, and so far in 2020, we've served 423 youth. To date, we have had the honor and privilege to step into moments of crisis with 656 youth in their most vulnerable moments, usually in the middle of the night, through the first responder protocol. We have served over 1,000 kids through case management and advocacy. We have educated 682 kids in juvenile halls and care facilities through the prevention curriculum. And we are fast approaching 2,000 youth that we have served and supported. With all of this lived experience, we are often called upon to train and consult around the country in one way or another. Our national impact can be found in Texas, Hawaii, Arkansas, Maryland, Florida, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, D.C., New York, and Arizona, all out of our home base here in California. With 10 years behind us and so many accomplishments, we feel like we are just getting started. There is so much more to do, and we can't wait for the next 10 years.
Ori, you recently had a great opportunity to sit down with Cetrion, one of our survivor advocates at Saving Innocence, didn't you?
I did. It was a great conversation. Let's take a look. Watching that 10-year clip brings me back to how we first met, probably over 10 years ago. But just seeing how far, Saving Innocence has come, and throughout the 10 years, all the progress and just the amazing work that we've done, and how much the organization has grown, and all the progress, and all the impact that it has had. It makes me start to think about our relationship, how we met, but also, what was your experience like 10 years ago?
It's crazy how, as we look back at Saving Innocence, the 10 years, the passing years of what they've been doing, and thinking about how me and you met over 10 years ago and how much change has happened since then. There wasn't that much safe language. There wasn't even any programs for kids who were in the system for prostitution. Like, just seeing how today in 2020, kids aren't being arrested no more for human trafficking, and they're sent to programs, and they're asking the kids now, what happened? Do you need help with anything? When I look back 10, 15 years ago, when I was out in the streets and I had a pimp, I was actually arrested for prostitution. So a lot of the kids that I work with today, they don't understand how I was in jail with the prostitution charge because that's not a thing anymore. Were you ever charged with prostitution when you were a kid?
I wasn't. And a lot more of my experience was just experience the school to prison pipeline. You're definitely right. When we both were in the system, there wasn't a different language. They used a lot of language that was very offensive. It was just a different experience for us. And especially from how far now the movement of trafficking has come.
Yeah.
And people weren't educated. People weren't aware. And some people choose not to be aware. We know that. But what was your process and your experience like from being a youth and when you first was exploited? What was that like?
Like looking back at it now, I didn't really see myself as a child that needed help, a child that needed the services, because it was an actual crime for a minor to be out in the street, exchanging sex for money. So when I did get arrested, I wasn't thinking like, oh my goodness, finally somebody can help me. I can tell them what's going on with me. I was mad because they were interfering with me making my money. And when I was in the police station, of course, I give a fake name. I tried to say that I was 18 because I wanted to get released the next day and go back to making my money. But after fingerprinting me and, asking some questions, they figured out, okay, this girl is 15. And it has been a few times where I was in the police station wearing a wig or high heels and, the revealing clothing. And the police would kind of make a joke about it, like, oh, look at this young Tootsie right here. This is a young one right here. This is a little prostitute girl. She probably got a wig on. Let's see if it comes off. Just making a joke of it, even after they ran my fingerprints and seen that I was a child. So looking back to like what I do now at Saving Innocence, it's just crazy to me that there has to be a trainings and laws passed for an adult to treat a child like a child.
When I went into juvenile hall and got arrested at 11 years old and started into the system, it was very shamed looked upon. But I did remember at a certain point when I first got arrested at 11, and I had like this big ponytail in my hair, like eyebrows was bushy, didn't wear lashes, didn't have any nails on. And I remember, I can remember the transformation of then turning 12 and 13 and being 12 and coming in with a tattoo on my neck and staff recognizing, tattoo on your neck. I now have long nails. I have a wig on. I have my eyebrows done. I'm coming in with hardly anything on. The person who I was before at 11 years old, that innocent girl, was a completely different person at 12 and 13. The number one misconception of what people think is that the girls that we've worked with or the youth that we've worked with is that it's a choice. And when you look back on your childhood, do you feel like it was absolutely your choice?
See, like for me at the time, I took it as a choice because my mom had kicked me out the house and I was being abused at home. My mom was emotionally cold to me, a lot of physical abuse. So when I did leave and I was out in the streets, flipping tricks with a pimp, to me, it didn't seem that disturbing or that bad of an option because at home, it was way worse. When I was asked, am I okay? Am I being forced to do anything? I will always say no, because in my mind, I wasn't. I willingly walked out, willingly stayed at the pimp's house. I was not, held hostage. I wasn't threatened. I don't feel that I was manipulated. I felt like it was an equal relationship, but it's no way for a child with no income who's not fully, mentally developed yet to have an equal relationship with a grown man. And looking back at it now, I don't feel that it was actually a choice because I didn't wake up one morning in elementary school, like how they have the school, career day, and they have like a veterinarian come out, they have the doctors, the police, and everything. I did not see no booth that said prostitution. Which one of you kids wants to grow up and become, not even grow up, which one of you kids wants to become a prostitute? Where was the prostitution booth at school? I don't think any kid will willingly walk up to it after being told that you're going to sell a very personal part of yourself to several men over and over. Sometimes it might hurt. Sometimes you might feel bad about yourself. You may not go home that very next day. You may not eat. You may not, feel supported. I don't think any kid at career day would go to the booth that says you get a pimp, you got to fight for, earning your money and being top ranking on the track. Nobody would pick that. That's why the girls that I work with now, I see myself in a lot of them, because some of them will tell me, this is my choice. This is what I want to do. I'm making money. Why would I sit at home and be broke when I got my body to use and I can make money? And I understand that, because that's how I felt at one point in time. But they don't understand that there's emotional strain, there's psychological strain, and it's a lot of wear and tear that it may not affect you now as a child, but as you grow and become more matured as an adult, it's gonna affect your life. I don't struggle with self-esteem. I struggle with self-worth. I feel that it don't matter how much education I have. It don't matter like what I do, that everybody can still see that little girl that was, ugly, the little girl that didn't have nice clothes, and the little girl that was in the police station getting called a prostitute. All the stuff I dealt with, related to human trafficking, I can grow and learn from it, but I can't take it away that it didn't happen to me. So sometimes I wake up and I feel that, I'm not gonna fit in. I still feel like I'm that, the same little girl in elementary that was bullied, the same girl walking the track, the same girl that the staff was saying, you're nothing but a 2-cent hoe. I still feel like her sometimes. Even though people see that, okay, I went to school, I got my associate's degree, I got my bachelor's degree, I enrolled in a master's program. All that stuff is just a shield for me to make me feel that I'm valuable, when really the value needs to come from me as a person. But because I've been stripped of my youth, by being pimped, by selling my body, it takes more time for me to value myself as a person. So no, I don't feel like it was a choice. Looking back now.
You're worthy. We are worthy. These youth are worthy. These kids are worthy. And I can only, just by you sharing, I can only imagine what each and every one of these kids are feeling.
Like, or do you feel that, coming from a past of like always, being the disappointment and, people always having something negative to say about you, that you kind of unconsciously make choices still that you're not okay with, just to make somebody else, accept you into their social group, or, give you that pat on the back that you didn't have as a kid?
Well, yeah, because everything was always forced. Everything was always forced. And even when I thought something was genuine from my trafficker, or I thought something was genuine with other girls or young boys that was out there being exploited as well, it was always forced. So even when I had a choice in front of me, I still wouldn't make a decision unless it was because that person said it was good. And I think that's the beautiful thing about Saving Innocence, because you get to be the person, and I got to be the person that they didn't have. Somebody that knows what empathy is, to say, I'm gonna walk alongside you. I'm not gonna tell you how to live your life, because your trafficker did that. He told you what to wear, how to talk, what you was gonna eat. You may have a little decision on what your nail color was going to be, or how you wanted your hair. But that was all manipulation in it too. So I totally understand what you're saying, especially about like the choices. And that's so beautiful that Saving Innocence, and you just being an advocate there, that you're able to walk with them and say, okay, you don't want to do that. Here, let's try some other options, and you pick out the options. I want people to know what it's like to be in the life, and they could never walk in our shoes, but what a day in the life looks like. Waking up in the morning, for one, not knowing if there's not a comfortable feeling that I might actually make it through today. Today I might actually get killed by a John, someone who purchases sex. My trafficker could choose to beat me brutally. He can choose to kill me in any way he wants. But that through the whole day, there's no choice whatsoever. And when you wake up in the morning and you know that the only thing that you are going to have to do today is be forced to make money. And that's it. That you're a piece of property. And that's all that you are. And that's all that you'll ever be. Being called out your name. Being treated worse than a dog in a way. Like just being treated like crap. I just remember waking up sometimes being in a life and like feeling hopeless. Like life was always going to be this way. And this is all I will ever do. And everything that led up to this point, all the sexual abuse, being 8 and 9, everything was my fault. I always thought everything was my fault. Everything. For a long time, I thought I was choosing things and had no idea that from the things I experienced as a child, all my childhood abuse and sexual abuse, it affected my thinking that I was choosing to be in the life. And it's all a lie. It's not even the life, this glamorous thing. It's all a lie.
Like when you were around 11, 12, when I had met you, did you feel that, like, how did you feel about yourself? Because I seen a little girl. Like when I looked at you, I seen a little girl, you know, somebody bubbly, somebody that needs to be protected, like a little sister for me.
Man, 11 and 12 years old, I was really lost. I was so lost. And because my trauma started in the womb, like when my mom had me in prison and being adopted at 2 days old and then being abandoned right in the middle of my trafficking, you know, by my adopted mother. She has her own trauma, you know, and never having a voice. Like when my abuse started at 8 years old, when the molestation and the rape, and nobody ever believed you. There was always this need to like fit in. Like there's always this identity piece. I struggle with who I was, you know, where did I come from after finding out I'm adopted at 10 years old, you know, right before me entering the life. I never belonged. I was always a black sheep. I was looking through photos the other day of me being in the 4th and 3rd grade. I was going through my yearbook. And you know how kids sign a yearbook?
Yeah.
Right? I signed other people's names. My mother didn't choose me. I mean, there was also, she couldn't because she was in prison, but my adopted mother chose to give me up, to put me back into the system. I was never asked a choice of what I wanted. So at 11 and 12 and being in the streets, and when I met you, yeah, I seemed always bright and bubbly, but that's always been my defense, because I was so brutally like bullied as a kid. A lot of my life, I've always been searching for identity, and I think that's been my number one thing now in my life, is finally having the freedom to say, I'm choosing to be me. We've never been given the choice. So of course it's going to be hard for us to pick healthy choices, because we've never known what that looked like, the people that we've role modeled. You protected me a time when I was 14 talking to a 28-year-old man. You walked up to him and told him, my little sister is only 13, 14 years old. You know,
Stay away.
Yeah, stay away. And it was things like that I needed. And I'm just in a beautiful place, and I've definitely been appreciative. And Saving Innocence helped me when I was there to grow into this professional that I had no idea. And they gave me so many opportunities and just worked with me so well, because that's what they do. I so much want to know, who are you today? What does life for Cetriane look like today? What do you share with the kids on who you are?
I feel that it's still a continuing process from when I was first exploited, because today, over 15 years later, I'm still learning how to set healthy boundaries, how to cope, how to be okay with myself. I'm still trying to undo all the trauma. I'm trying to undo all the negative and bad habits I picked up from exploitation and having to survive as an adult while I was a child. I had to fend for myself for years. I had to figure out things on my own. I didn't have, you know, parents to go to and say, this dude hurt me, or my heart's been broken, or I'm scared. So now I'm still learning how to ask people for help. I take pride in being that TV mom, you know, the mom that's baking cookies, doing board games, making activities, making everybody wear ugly matching clothes for the photo that I'm gonna hang up. I like having memories like that, so that when my kids get older, they can look back and remember a healthy childhood, that they can remember their mom was not just providing financial needs, but she was emotionally there too. I instill in them that we're a family, and it doesn't matter how good or bad you do in school, or, you know, if your behavior is okay or not today, I'm still gonna love you the same. After I completed my bachelor's degree in psychology, I enrolled in a master's program for to be a school psychologist. But after working here for a year and becoming really involved in the work and uplifting the youth and feeling supported by, my team, I switched my career plan, my education plan, to do something that's more, beneficial to my goals and what I'm doing here at Saving Innocence. This is a job that I see myself continuing doing long term, because it's not just, for me, it's not just I'm employed here, it's I get to relive my childhood and make it more positive, because the kids have a similar background to mine, and I can give them the type of support that I did not have when I was a kid growing up in the system.
Thank you so much for sharing parts of you that, you didn't have to, and you allowed us in. You're already doing amazing things at Saving Innocence, and I know that they're so lucky to have you, very blessed to have you on a team, and just, you're making an impact, sis. You're making an impact on these kids' lives, and it's permanent. You're being that person that they've never had in their life, and they're watching you, they're learning from you, they're gaining wisdom from you, and they need you. And a lot of times, even as advocates, we need them, but you already know you're rocking this thing. You're going to continue to go high places.
Ori, we have covered a lot of ground tonight. We looked at the last 10 years via video. You and Cetrion had a great conversation. And that begs the question, what about the next 10 years? We have to talk about the growth of Saving Innocence.
Well, Alan, we can't move forward with the next 10 years if we haven't appropriately celebrated the past 10 years.
I like where your head's at. What'd you have in mind?
Maybe some music.
When the pandemic first hit, I thought for just a brief moment, maybe this is going to give us a little break. Maybe it's going to give our staff a little break, and more importantly, maybe it'll give our kids a little break. Boy, was I wrong. It didn't take very long before our numbers began to spike, and the middle of the night crisis calls that we go on tripled in the weeks and months to come. Apparently, the traffickers were not honoring shelter in place and social distancing, and our kids were further traumatized more than ever before. In conversations like these, in settings like this, there's a number of phenomenal quotes of amazing people that have said important things over the years. I'd like to just share a couple of them with you now. The great Nelson Mandela has one of the most famous quotes of all time when speaking about this issue. He says, "There is no keener revelation to a society's soul than in the way in which it treats its children." Friends, I can tell you this, from my chair, from what I see, we have let our kids down. As a society, we have let our children down. We have not protected them like they deserve to be protected. Their lives have been completely traumatized and ruined. Kids out there are being dehumanized right now, today, tonight. Martin Luther King Jr. said a number of powerful things, and maybe never more poignant than in today's society. He said things like, "No one is free unless everyone is free." Well, think about that. You're watching this video right now, you're probably thinking you're a free person, but are you really free if there are those in your society, in our midst, that are not free? Did you know that human trafficking is referred to as a modern-day slavery? There's hundreds of thousands of modern-day slaves right now in our country being forced and compelled to do that which they don't want to do. Can we consider ourselves free when this is happening in our society? He went on to say this: our lives begin to end the day we stay silent about things that matter. Wow. I got to tell you, if there's breath in my lungs, I'm going to be about things that matter. I'm going to make a difference with my life. And I'm going to make sure I'm spending my time and energy on things that matter. Now, as a dad, as a father, I have a son and a daughter. I can't think of anything more important than helping children out of the rigors and the horrors of sex trafficking. Can you think of something that matters more than that? By treating our children like they have a life, like they have a future, I hope that you're going to be joining us in this effort and be about things that matter. I don't know if you knew this, that approximately 80% of the child victims that we serve at Saving Innocence are young girls of color. At this important time in our nation's history, with the civil unrest that's happening all around us, if this is something that you particularly care about and you're extraordinarily passionate about racial inequality, you can feel good about supporting Saving Innocence, because we're pushing against that each and every single day. Join the team. Make a difference. Let's have our lives matter. The next quote that I want to share with you comes from, I think, kind of an unlikely author. Albert Einstein, largely considered to be maybe the smartest person ever. He's the kind of guy, he's so smart, he can't go to school. He flunks out of school because he's too smart for whatever it is they're talking about. He says, "The world is a dangerous place to live." Got it. I'm with you, Mr. Einstein. But then he kind of turned it on its head. He flipped the switch. He said, it's not because of the people that do evil. He used the word evil, right? The world is dangerous, but it's not because of the people that are causing the problems. It's not because of the people that are wounding and hurting and in fact doing evil. No. He said, here's why the world is a dangerous place. It's because all of the good people that don't do anything about it. What you're saying, Mr. Einstein, is that we are all complicit in the hurt and the brokenness in this world if we don't do something about it. The next to the last quote that I want to share with you this evening comes from an unlikely source, one of our Saving Innocence clients, one of our kids. She sent me a letter addressed to myself and one of our case managers. She said very simply, "Thank you, Saving Innocence, for giving me another chance at life." Did you catch that, friends? She's not thanking us for another chance at her English exam or another chance at her driver's permit test. We're talking about another chance at life. This child is thanking Saving Innocence for giving her another chance at life. And earlier she said she didn't actually anticipate being alive by her next birthday. This is life and death issues for these kids, and we are so honored to step into this space. We are so honored. Each and every one of these children is so valuable. My last quote of the video, until I ask you all for $500,000, comes from a sticky-fingered 5-year-old little girl. This was incredible. I ran down to the store to pick up a few items that we needed for dinner. I'm pushing my little cart down the aisle, and coming the opposite direction is a mom doing her grocery shopping, and she's got her list looking on her phone. At least I presumed it was her shopping list. And right next to her was her little 5-year-old little girl. And I say sticky finger because she had a lollipop in one hand. And by now, when I saw her, some of that lollipop, the little red sticky, was around her face and on her fingers and a little on her dress. And with her other hand, she held 2 $1 bills. And of course, the red sticky had somehow transferred itself onto those $1 bills as well. And I just thought it was kind of cute and kind of funny. When she wasn't licking the lollipop, her mouth was just jibber-jabbering the whole way to her mom, talking about whatever. And she was sort of focused on her groceries, and the little girl kept talking. And I just thought it was funny. We passed each other. I went to the end of the aisle. I made a U-turn. She made a U-turn like you do. You kind of get on the same track when you're at a grocery store. And now they're coming towards me again. The same scene. The sticky-fingered little girl jibber-jabbering to her mom, taking a lick on her lollipop, holding her 2 $1 bills. And it hit me. I've seen this scene. This scene has repeated itself over and over again. It repeated itself in my family when my kids were little. I'm guessing that she did her homework. She did her chores. She cleaned up her room. She got a good report from her babysitter, whatever it was. She earned a couple of dollars to go down to the store and buy a toy, a little thing, a trinket. Now, it just so happened coincidentally that I pulled in my cart to check out and buy my items, and I pulled in right behind this mom and the sticky-fingered 5-year-old. And the most amazing thing happened. I will not soon forget this, maybe never. Mom is checking out. She's putting her items on the conveyor belt. I'm not paying that close attention, but I am noticing it. And the little girl raises her eyes to the counter, and she finds an acrylic clear little box with a slot in it. And there's nickels, dimes, and quarters, and a few dollar bills. And there's a picture on the cardboard cutout, what appear to be hungry-looking kids in some other part of the world. And right then, this little girl breaks the silence with a profound statement. She says this: "I already have enough toys. I'm going to help children," as she's stuffing her dollar bills in the acrylic box. I couldn't believe what I heard. I looked at her mom, and her mom said, oh, honey, oh, my goodness." My eyes traveled over to the checker. The checker was gasping. We had never seen it. I'm looking around. Did anyone just see this? Did anyone just see what this little girl did? This little girl was confronted with a need. Did she know everything there was to know about the organization collecting those funds? No, she did not. Did she know everything there was to know about the problem they were raising funds for? No, she did not. But she made a decision. And she gave, I'm guessing, all of her money to meet this need that she was confronted with. And she walked away, she turned right, I turned left, and I drove home thinking, that's incredible. I already have enough toys. I'm going to help children. You probably see where I'm going with this, friends. Do we need any more toys? How many more things do we need? Do we need more stuff? I'm not saying that toys, things, and stuff are not good. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those, but how much do we need? What if we follow the example of this sticky-fingered 5-year-old little girl? And what if we made a dramatic contribution to children in need? Because after all, we have enough stuff. Do you know everything there is to know about the organization Saving Innocence? No, you do not. But we would love to answer all your questions. Send me an email. There's a button on this screen right now, info@savinginnocence.org. Send an email. We would absolutely answer all those questions. Do you know everything about the issue that we're raising money for? Probably not. We would love to answer those questions also. We'd love to answer all the questions that you possibly have. Now, am I asking you to give all of your money like the little girl did? Actually, I'm not asking you to give all of your money. I'd like you to stay solvent. I'd like you to pay your bills. But here's what I am asking. I'm asking you for some of your money. I'm asking you to include Saving Innocence in your monthly budget, that you would give generously to Saving Innocence once you get all your questions answered, if you still have some. I would like for you to give on an uncomfortable level. What did he say? Did he say uncomfortable level? That's what I'm saying. I'd like for you to give it an uncomfortable level because I want you to be in solidarity with our staff and our kids. I can promise you, without a shadow of a doubt, you heard Ori and Cetrion earlier in this video, every minute of every day that these children are living is uncomfortable, to say the least. Not to mention the staff that serve them. They're up around the clock, wading into unspeakable trauma and tragedy every day. We're uncomfortable. Join us in being uncomfortable. Specifically, what am I asking you to do? I'd love for you to start a monthly recurring donation tonight. In a few minutes, I'm going to give you some time to do that. I'd like you to give a monthly contribution. And then I'd also like for you to make, in a separate transaction, a one-time gift. And here's what I'm talking about. I speak to college kids a lot. We have a lot of kids that give $5 or $10 a month. I challenge them, give up a Starbucks, give up one coffee a month. And they do that. And then we have a friend of mine actually gives $1,500 every single month. That's a big number. And I know him because I know him well. I know he's lonely up there. He could use some friends up in that area. Whatever the right number is for you, if you could join us at $25 a month or $100 a month or $200 a month, pick whatever number you think might be comfortable for you and then go a little bit more and make it uncomfortable. If it's $250, maybe it's $300. If it's $450, maybe it's $500. And then simultaneously, I'd love for you to make a one-time gift and a separate transaction. You can go on our website. The button is on the screen. Because with this pandemic and the economy, we definitely have lost some of our funding. So if you have the ability to, we'd love for you to give us a shot in the arm, not only by starting a monthly contribution, but by giving a one-time gift at the same time. That would help us finish this year strong and go into 2021 ready to go. In a few moments, we're going to put on a little slideshow of some of our kids and our staff. And it's during that time, I'm going to ask you to actually go onto our website. You can use the buttons on the screen now or go onto the website, however you want to go there, at savinginnocence.org/donate, and actually begin your monthly recurring gift tonight. And in a separate transaction, if you're able, would sure love for you to think about making a one-time gift of whatever number is a little uncomfortable for you. Do you already have enough toys? Do you already have enough stuff? I invite you to join us right here, right now. Let's go onto the website right now. Let's hit the buttons and let's be generous because kids' lives are hanging in the balance. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. We truly appreciate it. Ori, is there one more thing you'd like to say?
First off, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for your involvement. Thank you for your time. And thank you for your contributions. It means so much. But I want to challenge you. Don't make this the only night that you make an impact and get involved. Get more involved with Saving Innocence, but also make an impact on your daily lives. Do something to help these children because you can. And thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hey everyone, just a few closing sort of housekeeping items here. I'd love to invite you to check out our website, savinginnocence.org. And I'd love for you to push every button you can find and watch every video that's on there. Step one is to get yourself a little more educated, not only on human trafficking, but on Saving Innocence. Love for you to follow us on our social media, @Saving Innocence. Like something, retweet it, share it, all the things. Do that. Join us and help us get this message out and tell the story of what's happening. Also, we have some Zoom rooms set up right now. There's links on this page. If you'd like to interact with myself and some of our board members and talk about sort of the big picture of Saving Innocence and where the organization is going, we'd love to interact with you. There's a Human Trafficking 101. If you heard something tonight from Ori or Cetrion or anything that we said, you saw in a video, and you just want to understand a little bit more, how is this happening? Why is this happening? What is happening? Our licensed clinical social worker, Amber, and her staff and her faculty, they're waiting for you just to interact with you and help you learn a little bit more about what we're doing. You heard tonight about our foster family agency. Click that button. Interact with Diana. She's the administrator of our foster family agency. If you have some questions, what does it look like to be a foster parent? We would absolutely love to have that conversation with you. Diana is waiting for you right now. Also, I get asked all the time, is there anything else I can do? Sure, I'll give you a contribution. Thank you if you did that. But what else can I do? Do you have any volunteer opportunities? As a matter of fact, we do. We throw birthday parties and baby showers and all kinds of gatherings, and we need help from the public to help us throw those. In one of those Zoom rooms, on the button you see on the screen, is Julie. She's our volunteers coordinator. She would love to interact with you right now and let you know all the different things that you can do and how you can volunteer with Saving Innocence. The important thing is for you to get involved beyond just tonight. And the final button I'll have you look at when you go to our website, go under how do you get involved, and underneath that it says host an event. One of the really fun things that we do is that we have people, friends that want to do a little bit more, and they invite their friends into their backyard or their living room, and they host an event in which I come. Ori's been with me on a number of those events. We share a video, we talk about what's happening, and we invite your friends, 10, 12, 15, or 20 of them, into what we're doing. That's an invaluable resource that you can provide for us, introducing us to your friends. Hit one of those buttons, ask some questions, understand what's happening and how you could be part of the solution. Thank you again, everybody, for being involved, for being generous with your time and your resources. We really appreciate it.
Thanks again, everybody. Good night.